Communication is an important skill to have in today's society, whether it's hateful, peaceful, problem solving, or problem resolving. It's important because without communication, there's only action, and action's not always the best way to resolve something. My name is Abero, and today I'll be talking to you about communication. Communication is not just the ability to form words, but to vocalize them and put them together to relay an important message. The way you phrase something and your tone of voice is just as important as your actions and facial features. In this presentation, I'll be talking about how communication is learned, why it is needed, and how powerful language and communication is in today's society. Good communication is a stepping stone to a successful and driven society that will grow and thrive. All verbal communication is learned starting from the time we are learning our first word all the way to being 70 years old and learning the slang from new generations. Over the year, many words begin to have new meanings through each generation. Take the word dope, for example. In the older generations, they formed dope as relating to drugs, whereas the newer generation has changed dope into being a way to say cool or awesome. We are taught every word we know and its meaning from birth. We don't question what a word means and why it means that, we just go along with it. If our parents taught us to call our mom dad and our dad mom, that's what we would do with no questions. If our school wanted to teach us that a book is a computer or a computer is a book, they could. Apples could be oranges and oranges could be bananas, and we would fully accept that with no questions asked because that's the way language is. We are taught the social norms of communication through schools and parenting, but communication is taught in order to be successful in life. In a normal social interaction with your friends, you would say, "Hey bro, what's up?" versus in a normal interaction with a teacher or a person higher up to you to show respect, you would introduce them with "Good afternoon, sir," or "Good afternoon, ma'am." These interactions are to fill a silence in the world and to not be portrayed as rude. In today's language, walking by someone you know without a word is considered rude. Part of learning communication is learning the relationship between words and symbols. When you think of the word apple, the first image to come to mind is an apple. This begins as sounding out A-P-P-L-E to form a sentence, to looking at a picture of an apple and instinctively thinking about the word apple and not having it sounded out. This starts with babies. At a very young age, babies are taught how to spell things out and start communicating through blocks or food or sign language. So whenever they are taught to spell apple at a young age, that is how they communicate, or through picture. Communication is far more than just transmission of information. While the contents of our communication may help us achieve certain physical and instrumental needs, it also feeds into our identities and relationship in ways that far exceed the content of what we say. Physical needs include needs that we keep in our bodies and minds. Communication, which we often associate with our brains, mouths, eyes, and ears, actually have many more connections and effects on our physical body and well-being. Communication can alert others when physical needs aren't met, whether it's screaming or crying. Babies are a huge example of this because they can't speak. So when they're hungry or dirty, they cry and scream. This alerts their parents that they need something without the use of words. There are physical needs for foods, shelters, and even physical touch. Communication skills help people thrive and make people better when it comes to adapting to stress, depression, and anxiety. But in order to socially function and thrive, we must also meet instrumental relationship and identity needs. Instrumental needs includes needs that help us get things done in our day-to-day life and achieve short and long-term goals. Fulfilling these goals is an ongoing communication task, which means we spend more of our time communicating for instrumental needs. Some common instrumental needs are such influencing others, getting information we need, or getting support. There are research areas with communication that examines compliance gaining communication or communication aimed at getting people to do something or act in a particular way. Compliance gaining communication for instrumental needs is different from coercion, which forces or manipulates people into doing what you want. Coercions can be good and bad rewards, but it can also be offering rewards for people for their help, but it can also be threatening someone or blackmailing them to force you to help them. There is also liking and indebting. Liking is acting friendly or helpful in order to get your way. Indebting is calling on a favor or saying that you owe them because they helped you in the past. There are relational needs, which includes needs that help us maintain social bonds and interpersonal relationships. In order to develop a relationship, we may use nonverbal communication to assess whether someone is interested in talking to us or not, and then use verbal communication to strike up a conversation. Think of going to a bar and seeing someone across the room. Whenever you see them, you may make eye contact with them or smile, and this will alert you. This is a nonverbal communication that lets you know that they're friendly and they might be okay with you coming and striking up a conversation with them. Identity needs include our need to present ourselves to others and be thought of in a particular or desired ways. Like, what adjectives would you use to describe yourself? Are you funny, social, smart, quirky, weird, some people would call themselves? Your answer isn't just based on who you think you are, so it's much of how we think we are is based on communication with other people. We consider ourselves what other people have told us we are, so you wouldn't consider yourself funny unless someone has told you that you are funny. Our identity changes as we progress through life, and communication is the primary means of establishing our identity and fulfilling our identity needs and our needs in general. The contemporary American philosopher David Abraham once wrote, "Only if words are felt, bodily presences like echoes or waterfalls, can we understand the power of the spoken language to influence, alter, and transform the perceptual world." The power of language is to express our identities and who we are to ourselves. People are usually comfortable with the language they use to describe their own identities and only have issues when other people try and place labels on them that they feel are not true or not who they are as a person. In this context, people express their Irish identities on St. Paddy's Day, but they might not think about it the rest of the year. Although they are Irish on that one day, if someone called them Irish throughout the rest of the year, it could be hurtful. Language is also hurtful. Language can also affect your credibility, whether it's from where you're from, how you speak, or what you speak about. Some things that are said can never go away once they leave the mouth. Politicians and other people in leadership are a good example that once something is said, it can never be taken back. But language also means control, which is why politicians are smart with the way they say things and what they do when it comes to the public eye. If someone communicates the right way, they can convince someone to do anything they want. Control is offered when people give up incentives, but also commands. People can take control by withholding information or not speaking to a person in order to be hurtful or get something they want. But language can also be fun. It's fun to be able to talk to your friends and chat with them, and it's fun to be able to play board games like Scrabble and Words with Friends. It's also fun to be able to tell them jokes and hear jokes and understand jokes or have inside jokes with your best friend. Without language, none of these would be possible, and we might be alone without a way to converse with people. Language is a powerful weapon, and it has so many different uses, and I feel like we people need to just be taught a better way to use it rather than a hurtful way to use it. Communication is the most important part of life. It's the key to life, and without communication, we'd be sitting ducks in a still world. Communication is the most powerful learned trait throughout the world, and through communication, we meet the needs of the world, whether it's physical or instrumental. With a little help from other people, we can raise the stepping stone so much more and better the universe.